What is going on, Panthers Nation and larger football fans? I am still recovering with no voice, screaming way too loud on Saturday night in Columbia, South Carolina. Man, that game was fun. Lots of fun going on, folks. Hope y'all are doing well. I am trying to create more live content because that's where people live, is in the world of going live and streaming. So here I am trying to stack up my pennies, folks. Being monetized on YouTube has its perks. One of those perks is trying to stack that moolah. I'm just messing y'all. I am though. I'm trying to figure out like what's the best path. I don't know why some videos take off, why some videos don't take off, but it is what it is. We will continue. Also, if you are curious why the film breakdowns have stopped, part of the reason they've stopped is because of YouTube monetization. So I post them, there's the copyright. I don't know how to work around all that yet. So TBD, I love doing them, but I also don't like doing work that cannot result in a little bit of money, potentially. Like I said, put up those pennies. Let's keep it going. Folks, we are here Monday, November 4th. Tomorrow is an important day for our entire country as we await the college football in the college football standings. I think I was listening to Mac and Bone this morning, and they did that. I think it was Bone that was like, yeah, tomorrow's such a big day. First official college football rankings. I was looking at ESPN.com earlier today, looking at the playoff odds right now. And I mean, I can't see week over week how this has changed. I guess I could pull this, or I was going to try to pull this up. I'm using this new software, so we'll see if we can do a screen share. What do you know? It works. Yeah, so taking a look, and we are going to talk Panthers football, don't worry. But as y'all know, expanding a little bit of the content. I love college football way too much to not talk about college football. Love it. So that's what we're going to do here to start this thing off. 24 teams with a path to the playoff. And ACC fans, I'm at this right now. It ain't looking good for the ACC. The path to the ACC, or for the ACC right now, is one bid. One. That's it. One team getting in, and you're really talking the winner of Miami SMU, with Clemson losing. And I am sorry, Clemson fans. It's not looking good. I just put together a video that I'll be posting later. It talks about path to the playoffs. The problem for Clemson, one, they still have to play Virginia Tech this weekend. Never easy to play there. It's never easy. You have Clemson traveling up there. Then they travel to Pitt. And yeah, Pitt dropped a tough game to SMU. Pitt's still a good football team. That's not going to be tough. I hated Pitt. I hate teams, speaking of teams and traveling, I hate teams that play their, and I understand logistics, things like that, but play their football games in an NFL stadium. Pitt Panthers, you are one of those. Miami Hurricanes, you are another one. Bring football back to the campus, or at least close to it. And I say all that as the University of North Carolina looks to potentially move the basketball facilities offsite. Different conversation. Oregon, Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana. Wow. I have not looked at their remaining schedule, but what a story. You know what? My mom was from Indiana. I've got a ton of family there. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to claim Indiana. Go Hoosiers. Let's do it. Let's cause chaos. I mean, that is the beauty of the expanded playoff, to see some of these unfamiliar teams. Texas still in the mix. Tennessee. So right now, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the SEC within the top 1, 2, 12 right now. I mean, this is really your top 12 on the first half here. And then from the Big Ten, 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride here. Definitely is. So, anyways, yeah, Oregon, Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas, University of Tennessee, Penn State, said Penn State. Penn State, even though they lose, they could never win a big game. Like they just cannot get over the hump. But you know what? Expanded playoffs, and I hear a lot of people say this too, expanded playoffs is going to help them. That 2-loss Penn State's going to sneak in Boise State and Michael Myers, the running back. I like that. I picked Boise State. We do the 12 pick 'em in our family. I picked Boise State in earlier on. Now we won't talk about the other teams I picked because the odds of them making are not looking good. BYU, then Notre Dame. Here's the problem for the ACC. So you're going to have the 4 automatic bids. You're going to have Notre Dame. That's 5 bids. Then on top of all that, you got your group of 5. So you're talking 6 bids, half of the field being eliminated. So then give me the next 6 best teams in the country. And do you think, if you're outside of the ACC, being realistic, that you're going to look at this conference today and say, oh yeah, SMU, the powerhouse football program of the ACC, deserves to be in? It's a tough day. It is going to be a very tough day for Clemson fans, not to rub it in to anyone's face, but it is going to be rough. It is going to be tough sledding. So SMU still in the mix. I think worst case scenario for the ACC, if Miami and SMU went out, Miami blowing out SMU would eliminate the ACC with an additional team. Even then, I don't know. If SMU, of course, wins, then you probably have SMU, Miami in. I don't know. It's going to be tough competition. Then Ole Miss, Iowa State, LSU. Army is still in the mix. Texas A&M, who just got knocked off. That was a big win for South Carolina. And then on at the bottom, you still have Washington State in the Pac-2 playing good football. Kansas State. How about Colorado? I don't know what their remaining schedule is, but they are also talking about the Big 12. There's a potential path for them to sneak in. That would be quite the story. Tulane is one of the group of 5. We talked about Pitt after that loss. That hurts. And then UNLV. I know a lot of people, at least from this past weekend, wanted to talk through, like, what is a path? Is there a path for South Carolina to make the playoffs? And I would love for there to be a path for them to make it. But I think realistically, I was like before this going and looking out at the current standings in the SEC. When you look at who's ahead of them, that's what makes it really difficult. So Georgia, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Bama, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and then South Carolina. I think that's what, 10th? Now South Carolina plays Missouri and they play Vanderbilt, so they could knock them off. But you would still have Alabama, Ole Miss, and LSU above you. And for South Carolina, they would need some magic to happen and potentially have Ole Miss, who has 3 games remaining, lose 2 out of 3. They need Ole Miss to drop 2 or 3 out of the last 4. Yeah, 3 out of the last 4. Same thing with Alabama, drop 2 out of the last 3. And then, of course, like we said, South Carolina to win out. So I think it's going to be a long stretch, but I think building the program up the way that it is right now, at least from the outside looking in, looks good. Yeah, then you're top heavy. Like we just said, you're going to get one of these bids, Georgia. Then you have a Texas A&M, Tennessee, Texas likely in the mix. And we talked about LSU there. It's going to be possibly a fun ride, maybe. Yeah, talking through, and I just did a video on this, so I'll be posting it. We talked about Clemson's schedule. They're number 19 in the country. The real rankings come out tomorrow. They, like we said, play Virginia Tech. They do get Pitt. Their hope is that Pitt's going to stay ranked and be competitive. Citadel, that's a cakewalk. South Carolina. This is a spot where if South Carolina continues to win and South Carolina is ranked at the end of the year and maybe top 20 in this battle, have maybe a top 20 matchup, top 25 between South Carolina and Clemson. Clemson knocks them off handedly, which I don't know if that's going to happen. Then possibly there may be a chance for Clemson on the outside, but it's not good. Doesn't look good for them right now at all. Wild times. We are here. I'll get into the comments too in just a second. Oh, speaking of which, like when we talk about ACC, we got to talk about Miami and SMU. Both of them have pretty manageable schedules. Now, things happen, teams lose. We know, hey, blips happen on the schedule. So you have SMU with Boston College next weekend. So they have a bye this coming up. They're on the 16th. That's Saturday. The 23rd, they travel to Virginia, and then they close it out against Cal. So they should be favored in the final 3 games. And yeah, things can happen, but pretty easy path. Same thing with Miami. And I know Miami's been vulnerable, but they have Georgia Tech on the 9th, then a bye. They have that this weekend. Then on the 23rd, they have Wake Forest. This is in Miami, and they travel to Syracuse. And I know Syracuse is always a good matchup, decent matchup at home, especially for them. So I don't know, man. Wild times, but I will tell you this. We had a freaking fantastic time over the weekend. And I should have brought water up here because my voice is freaking killing me right now. Can't make it through. All right, time to talk about the Carolina Panthers. And first of all, we kicked off today with the news that the Carolina Panthers had Dennis Allen fired. They got the coach of the New Orleans Saints fired. That's what they thought about this. I mean, they did lose 7 in a row, and it's been a bumpy ride. But man, to think that the Panthers were the team that set this thing off. They looked at us and said, how did we lose to them? I mean, really, you have Cam Jordan tweeting out his frustration. And then I love JC Horn responding to him. I love the Carolina Panthers social account retweeting these guys, posting their stuff. And you come in today and Allen is fired. So the openings are happening. We already got the New York Jets. Now you have the New Orleans Saints. As we turn our attention to another New York team and the New York Football Giants, is Daboll potentially on the hot seat? That's always a possibility. And what a matchup. And my voice is cracking. Sorry, y'all. This is just part of getting my voice back. How about the matchup? 2-7, 2-7, making our way across overseas to Germany. We'll get into the Bryce Young discussion in a second. But that's the thing that gets me with the Saints trash talking. The Saints are acting like, and not the fans, the Saints team was acting as though they were a 6 or 7 win football team, and there was no business that they should lose this game. Sure, we can play the box score game and say if this thing happened this way, well, we could also play the on the field game and say, well, if that defensive back for New Orleans doesn't make that ridiculous interception, there's a very good possibility that we score on that drive, and it's not even nearly as close as it was in the final little tidbit there. I will tell you that final play call for the Saints, just throwing up a jump ball, I don't understand that on a 4th and short, but you know what? I'll take it. First victory formation for Bryce Young in a win. First time. Like I'm sure along the way he's had to take a knee in the first half going into halftime, but first win where he gets to take a knee, because the other ones have been walk-offs. We actually had a lead in the 4th quarter. That too, and at home. So I think it is important. Like, let's pivot and talk about Bryce Young. So I don't know how many people have not had a chance to listen to the Dave Canales press conference. He continues to skate around the idea of having Bryce Young as QB1 for whatever reason. Like, I don't know what the feud is, and maybe it's not really a feud. I just put together a video and I tried to think like, well, what could be the reason for him to play these games? And, I like to shout out the folks I listen to, and I listened to Kyle Bailey this afternoon on WFNZ. I mean, WFNZ is the go-to. I will plug them always great folks, great content for me. Also listen to ESPN 99, The Fan in Raleigh, as well as ESPN Wilmington. Y'all know I'll plug all my shows and podcasts. It's too many things to listen to, but I listen to all those guys. Easy to have it on in the background. And they were talking, or Kyle was talking on the show today about this situation with Bryce Young, and it kind of spurred some ideas in my mind. And one of those ideas that came about, when you think about Bryce Young, for me, because Bryce Young's really been in a situation his whole career where things have essentially been handed to him. And that's just part of what it takes when you are the best player in the country, coming out of college, one of the best players in the country, you go one to the best programs. Things are just like naturally you're going to fit in line, take over. And even going back to last year, the fact that the Panthers and Frank Wright, and that more than likely was well above Frank, we know that. We could all like assume that there was hey, we're drafting this kid, we're going to start him. That was probably top down from Tepper. Like we know with everything that happened last year, that was probably a clear indication. But you look at Bryce Young coming in, being the starter, declared day one, right out of the gate. He's the starter. He goes through, has the bumpy ride, gets into this year. Kind of same. I mean, like, I don't know why there would be a competition, but he gets benched. That's something that Bryce really hasn't had to deal with. He has not had to deal with adversity. And I think even whatever side you are on for Bryce Young, whether you support him or you hate him, and I don't care which one you are, it is what it is. Whatever side of the fence you're on, we can all agree he played terrible the first two games. He deserved to sit out. But I also like to think about, well, what if, as we now see him 4 games in and he's starting to come around, what if he had played in the preseason? That's always going to be a conversation that we have. What if? But he goes through adversity, and maybe this is Dave Canales' way to press his buttons. I don't know. See, Dave Canales does not seem like a guy to me that wants to press someone's buttons or piss someone off. It's weird. It's almost like you go back and think about how he handled Deontay Johnson. And I don't see how there could be that much beef with Bryce Young as your quarterback. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe you just came into this situation and you're like, man, I didn't think this is what I was getting into. I scouted him. I watched him. I knew this was going to be a much, much better player than what I got. I want to go get my guy. I don't know. I don't know the story. And I don't know if that's his antics and that's his way, but just the back and forth that we have continued to see with him, one just not even wanting to address him. I told folks, I don't know how many people are Harry Potter fans. It was like Bryce Young, the name Bryce Young for Dave Canales is like Voldemort. It's like he who must not be named. It's like if you say Bryce Young around Dave Canales, you better run. He's not going to say it. He will divert everything he can. But now he's forced to. He's forced to with Andy. And it really is like an unfortunate situation for Andy Dalton, but fortunate situation for Bryce Young. And Bryce Young has checked every box. He's checked every box that should give him the chance to start this week. And for me, we should not be this wishy-washy coming out from the head coach saying we're going to evaluate and trying to I don't know who asked the questions today. Maybe it was Scott Fowler. It was a really good question about the health of Andy Dalton and if that would impact or was going to impact the decision. And I like asking that because he's like, are you going to be evaluating based off of performance that we have seen, or are you going to be kind of factoring this whole package together? I think he was kind of giving him a little bit of an out in a way, but whatever this stance is, like, Dave Canales, I don't know what more you need to see. And for me, and folks are saying this as well, if Bryce Young is not going to start on Sunday, and this is the other thing that came to mind, and I know we're getting close to the trade deadline, and it's however many hours away, and there's no official word that like they're planning to move on from Bryce Young. But if you're not going to start Bryce Young, there is no reason not to get him traded today or I guess by tomorrow by 4 p.m. There's absolutely no reason not to. Because what exactly is going to happen? Like, what's going to be the opening over the last span of, what is it, 7 games, that's going to say, okay, yeah, now's our chance to go back to Bryce Young when we're completely washed, when we're completely out of any, I'm not, like, some people may even say right now we're completely out of it, but there's still, I'm not saying this team's going to win. There's still technically, we have not technically been eliminated from the playoffs. So still a chance to play some competitive football. But I would not understand it. Or I don't understand even teetering with this idea for the rest of the freaking year. Here's what I said, Dave Canales, you know what? If Andy Dalton is your quarterback and you just love Andy Dalton so much, okay, guess what? At the end of this year, if that's the case and going into next season, that's what you want to do, and Brant and Dan Morgan, y'all decide, hey, we want a 37 going on 38-year-old quarterback to lead our franchise of the future. Think about that. That's on you. And you know what? Do it. But in this short span of 8 games, whatever it is we got here closing out, it does not make sense not to have Bryce Young on the field at the quarterback position for the Carolina Panthers. It doesn't. And I went back last night and I posted, for those that haven't seen it, and I've got a video coming out, so you'll see it on there anyways. Posted a comparison of Bryce Young in the first 2 weeks where he was not good with the last 2 weeks. And we're seeing significant improvements. Is it perfect? No. But I think he's someone, speaking of Bryce, that we just need to see him out there. We just need to see the kid play football. And if you want to think about the future of this franchise, you want to see him be successful, because that means next year you get to draft defensive player, maybe another skill position, an offensive lineman, whoever it is, maybe trade back, build up some more draft capital, but you're not trying to chase a quarterback, at least for another year. And then another year, maybe this thing hopefully works out in a positive direction. But it's a mess, man. I don't know how you cannot come out. Like, what is the game? What are we playing? What are you accomplishing by teetering with the 37-year-old and the whatever 23, 24-year-old quarterback and Bryce Young? What are you getting out of playing this game with your locker room? When I think about the two quarterbacks head to head, Andy Dalton has started, the wheels started to fall off. Like, he looked good, but yeah, he looked good against a very bad, terrible Raiders team. They're about in as much crap as we are, but I feel like we're a little bit better. Let's see. Let's go back and look, because I had not pulled this up, but I know his numbers are starting to decline. I was going to try to pull up his box game log if we can get to it. So Andy Dalton, maybe. Let's go with the full game log here. So Las Vegas was lights out, 319 yards. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing. I was one of those people. 70.3 completion, 3 touchdowns, 8.6 yards per pass. Since then, he's fumbled, man. He's slowly declined. 220 yards against the Bengals. It was still a competitive football game, but dropped to 62.5 completion, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, 5.5 average. Then against the Bears, 136 yards. Atlanta, 221. And lastly, the game that made no sense in the world, the Washington Commanders, 93 yards. Since the Vegas game, he looked great. 8.6. Looked freaking fantastic. And since then, you're not even above 6. And Bryce Young, over the last 2 games, and I just had it pulled up, so hopefully I can find where I put it. Against the Broncos, a very good defense, 6.1 yards per pass. against the Saints, 6.6 yards. And that was with Dave Canales calling the whatever screen game he was calling. I'll say this too. I will defend Dave Canales on the front of just kind of getting things underway. Like, I get it. Like, I feel like you could turn on any football game and somebody's going to be mad at somebody in whatever situation. There's always going to be something that pops. I don't like that call. I don't like that call. I don't like this. I don't like that. I can agree. I think the fact that he acknowledged the screenplays, the 3 in a row, and or Miles Sanders getting the ball, which I don't understand. Folks, here we go. While we're on it, the Miles Sanders stuff, hopefully, I mean, one, I don't know who's going to trade for him right now, so we'll just see. But the Miles Sanders stuff should kind of go away because you're going to have Jonathan Brooks. And Jonathan Brooks should be taking every single one of the reps from Miles Sanders. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he should. So I hope we get to see Jonathan Brooks. I hope we get to see Wonum, Crumity, a lot of these young guys. It would be fantastic. It'd be nice to also get a win. But statistically speaking, it just doesn't make sense not to put Bryce out there and keep rolling with him. And you know what? If he absolutely bombs, I mean, it's almost like you have to take the test. It's like we can keep studying all we want. We can keep cramming and pushing it off and moving the date and moving the date and moving the date. But eventually you got to take the test. So why not go ahead and take it now? Take it, ride with Bryce Young, see what you got. So I don't know. That's my general thoughts on where we are. And I have not looked at a single comment on here. So I will jump on that here in just a second. Let me get this pulled up. Let's get caught up here. Day one, Panthers fan just said facts. This is what I get from rambling too, by the way, and just talking away and not catching up. Tez Johnson said, Day one Panthers fan said, wide receiver Ted Johnson from Oregon. They need to pick up Tez with the first round pick in the 2025. I don't know. I don't know if I have a comment on that. Not because I don't know, but because I am one of those people that pushes off the mock draft convos, because for me as a content creator, I have 3 months of that's just what it is. Mock draft. I got so tired of mock drafts. And to me, I was like, I seriously, I'm sure I'll get some stuff out, but I was like, I do not want to go in the middle of the season and start putting together mock drafts. It's also another reason why I pivoted to talk more broadly about sports, college football specifically. So that's all we got. Anyways, folks, probably, one, I should say, depending on where you're watching, it would be much appreciated if you do come over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Helps out a lot as the show grows. Always appreciated that there. But yeah, I think that is gonna wrap for today. I've got more content coming out. I got to go work on cutting, editing, all that. Figured I'd hop on here. So anyways, until next